Namaskar, dear seekers. So, good evening to all of you. It is nice you are joining us to our series of live stream, the question answers. And today's topic is which spiritual path is best for me. So, before we start, I would like first to introduce myself in short. My name is Cyriaque, and I'm doing spiritual practice for more than 20 years. I've been in India also for more than 20 years, and I live in India permanently for 10 years in an ashram. And for the past 1.5 years now, I'm traveling in different country to spread spirituality. And now we are in a caravan, also in Germany. For the past few months, we were traveling across Europe. But now, of course, since few months, we are just remaining in Germany. And now we are close to Bielefeld, a city in center of Germany. And about SSRF, that is the acronym of the Spiritual Science Research Foundation. It was founded in 2006 with the blessing of His Holiness Dr. Vallee, that is a high sense from India. And SSRF has two main objectives. One objective is to explain about the spiritual dimension, and we have for that website with more than 700 articles on different topics. We have spiritual phenomena, we have different aspects that we face, and we explain the science behind it, the spiritual science. We have aspect also about spiritual practice. So of course I encourage you to read all the different articles on the website. And also the second objective is to guide and help a seeker in their spiritual journey all the way to God realization. And in conjunction with SSRF also there is a Maharishi University of Spirituality that has also been founded by His Holiness Dr. Vallee. And all the research that is done using biofeedback device to show about the spiritual dimension is also published on our website. So dear seekers, before we start our live stream sessions, in today's topic, and some of you, if you are just joining, it will be about which spiritual path is best for me. So I will be sharing some point to you for around 30 minutes, and the remaining 30 minutes will be your questions. But before we start, what we do, we close our eyes and meditate or focus in some chant for 2 minutes, just for the mind to remain stable and calm, and then we will start. So you can close your eyes. We will also play a divine chant in low tone. You can either meditate or chant or focus on your own breath, and then we will start in 2 minutes.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 Om Namo Bhagavate.
Open your eyes. So I think some of you, if you are just joining us, the topic of today's of our question of answers, question and answers, is which spiritual path is best for me. So I will be sharing some point for 30 minutes, and then that can be your questions or your experience in regards of this topic. So actually we can see now there are so many spiritual paths, and especially on the internet now there is so much guidance about it. So sometimes one who is also curious about spirituality may wonder which path to follow. And when we decide to, or we want to undertake a spiritual practice, it is important to bear in mind that each individual is different. So what may work for one may not work for another. It's like when climbing a mountain and we reach to the top, we feel it is our only way that we can reach to the top. But when we reach the top and we look down, we realize that actually there were many ways how I could have climbed all the way to the top. And that brings us to an important fundamental principle in spirituality, that there are many paths to God as there are people and corresponding temperament. So actually, which path is best for me? And in today's live stream, we will see some of the major spiritual paths, the corresponding also spiritual experience, and how many years or even births it takes to progress in such different paths. So don't hesitate, and if you have questions, always don't hesitate to write on the chat, because later on we have seekers also. We are there. We are collecting your questions, and we are preparing them. So if you have, even from the beginning, don't hesitate to ask questions. So what are the major, we can say, spiritual path? And there are various spiritual practice now in today's times that actually come from those main spiritual paths who actually exist since ages. And some of them are, some of you may be knowing. So one of them is what we call the path of devotion, or we call it also Bhakti Yoga. And the path of devotion is a practice of devotion or recognition of the divine in everything. It involves like surrendering to the divine and connecting to the universal principle, and such as practice like chanting. And this path also include ritualistic worship that is more at the beginning stage, and later on at a higher stage it becomes more mental, such as chanting or awakening, practicing to awaken spiritual emotion. And to practice devotions and make progress in that path, one has to remember God all the time. For example, it is in difficult situations, one should feel how much God is helping me in this situation, instead of feeling why God is giving me this, or why God is doing this to me. There is another major path, is the path of knowledge, known also as Dhyan Yoga. And the path of knowledge is actually an intellectual path of understanding scriptures, and also studying self in regards to the scriptures. It involves like studying slowly and also the scripture and putting into practice. And because in this path one to have a pure intellect to seek in a way the answer, just like who I am, and for that the person needs to be at a much higher level. And to practice the path of knowledge and make spiritual progress in this path, one has to be able to look at everything objectively, like as a third person. For example, in a difficult situation, one has to experience that I'm not the body, but it is just my body who is going through it. There is another major path, and many of you may be practicing or knowing this path. It is a path of meditation, also called Dhyan Yoga. And in essence, what meditation is to just to transcend the mind and to connect with the universal mind of God. At the beginning stage, it includes like practice yoga posture, like what we call asanas, or breathing technique called pranayam, and trying to make efforts to meditate. But to practice the path of meditation and to grow spiritually through the meditation, one has to remain in meditation all the time. And for example, in a day-to-day life or in a difficult situation, when the person is able to remain in a meditative state despite, we can say, external or challenge or even interaction will be challenging. So only when that person is able to remain, even though in meditative state, then that person may be able to make progress in that path. For the path of action, that is another path, known also as karma yoga. The path of action is what selfless service, of helping others, but without any expectations, of result, praise, or no expectation of remuneration. And many people think that the path of actions mean social service or volunteering for a good cause or helping others. But actually the main element in the path of action is to do anything without any expectations. So we can see that in this path we go from selfishness to selflessness. But to be able to grow also in this path, for example, when the person is praised, they don't take any credit for it, or they experience that they not have done it. So we can see that actually it is not easy, to follow this path. As we have seen, and some of you, I don't know, some of you, if you have experienced that it is not easy to make real spiritual progress on this different path, despite practicing for many years. You can also write, if some of you that you are looking at us tonight, you can write also your experience. And this is because also this is because the current time is difficult, and the average spiritual level also in human beings today is quite low. So I would like to show you a table that is very interesting, and it's a table about the different main spiritual path, or we can say we choose 5 different paths. When it is done with one own intellect, following to guide them ourselves, or by listening to a spiritual master or a guru. And you can see we have 5 paths. One is called path of asanas, that is of yoga posture. The other path called pranayam is a path of breathing technique. Then silence is some path where the person remain in silence. Then there is a path of kundalini, and also we have the path of knowledge. And we can see that when we practice this path with our own intellect, without in a way listening to us, or just listening to ourselves and guide ourselves, the maximum spiritual progress we can reach in those paths, in any of those 5 paths, is 30%. And especially we can see how many years it may take, between 5 to 10 years. So what it means that if we practice spirituality on our own, or our own intellect, then practicing for 8 to 10 years, we may be not doing any progress at all. And the same path followed by listening from a guidance given by a spiritual master or a guru, this is up to where we can reach. We can reach in some 2 paths, as you can see of the yoga asanas, the yoga posture, we can reach a maximum spiritual level of 80%. But what is more important here is the duration. So you can see that to reach that level, it will take up to 20 births, and even in the path of silence, it will require more than 20 births to reach that level. So just to go back, I hope you were able to understand. If you have any questions also about this table, don't hesitate to write questions or to clarify something. So actually, just to take in consideration that each one of us will be inclined towards a different path as per our temperament. We actually need the guidance and grace of a guru or a spiritual master. And a guru is someone who have themselves practiced spirituality and walked the path, and who have reached at least sainthood, and who can guide actually a seeker as per their temperament. And the founder of the University of Spirituality and the source of inspiration of SSRF is His Holiness Dr. Cyriaque Vallee, has taken the best from each path and combined them into the path of Guru's grace to make rapid spiritual progress. So just to explain about the path of Guru's grace, is also called the Guru Krupa Yoga. And it took from the path of action, it took the selfless service. From the path of devotion, it took the path of awakening spiritual emotion. And from the path of meditation to take the chanting technique. And from the path of knowledge to take this aspect of overcoming defect of personality and overcoming the ego. And in the path of Guru Krupa, or the Guru's grace, it's combined of 8 steps. And the first step is overcoming defect of personality. The second step is chanting God's name, that I think you can always read on the website, and those different steps also are explained in more detail in the website. The third step is what we call satsang, or we can say spiritual meeting, when seeker join and to learn about spirituality. And then what we have satseva. Satseva, it is service to God. Another aspect is overcoming or reducing the ego. It's called ego removal. And another practice, which in a way more advanced, it is awakening spiritual emotion towards God. And the last is how to develop love for others without any expectation. That is also called priti, and that is a more advanced stage. But just wanted to clarify, many say, oh, I want to develop love for others, but they are not eager to work on overcoming defect of personality. And just to understand, it's just not possible, because if we have anger, expectation, jealousy, envy, how can we have love for others without expectations? That's why we put it last, and we put the personality defect first, because to be able to awaken spiritual emotion, or to be able also to develop love for others, first we have to overcome the different defects within us. And just to go back to what I shared just before in the table, we have seen that in some paths it takes 5 to 20 births to actually reach a maximum spiritual level of 80%. And 20 births is quite a lot. And actually in the path of Guru Krupa Yoga, or Guru's grace, someone can reach 100% in this lifetime only, so just within one life. What we mean, it means God realizations. And in SSRF also we have many seekers from different paths. We have seekers from the path of actions, we have seekers from the path of meditations, few from the path of knowledge, and we have many seekers more from the path of devotions. And the Guru knows also which is better practice they should do, because this is what is there, that of course we all practice this aspect of overcoming defect of personality, but after each one follow different practice. Some may follow, they do drawings, sculptures, some follow dance, some they write articles. So depending on the path, the Guru guides them what is actually, or what will be the most rapid for them to progress spiritually. And just wanted to emphasize again on this, that in the current time, the overcoming defect of personality is in a way the foundation for a seekers who is on any path. Because until and unless the defect within self is overcome, whatever path we want to follow, it will be difficult to make spiritual progress. Or if one do this practice and overcome defect within oneself, then whatever path the person do, they will be able to grow spiritually. And especially if we make conscious effort, because in today's time, even time I shared before, now the time are difficult. But at the same time, it is very favorable because we are in this, what we call sandikal, a transition period. And when we do spiritual practice, we can grow much faster today. And we can make much faster spiritual progress. And also due to that, because we grow spiritually, we are able to achieve stability. And that is very important in today's time because of the time to come. So dear seekers, about the different points that I shared, and also you want to share if you have any questions, now we can take your questions or experience or obstacle also in the spiritual path you may be following, or if which path you want to follow and you don't know. So you can share your questions. It is very nice. We already have quite a number of questions. We have a question from Jesper Elegard. I've heard that the Jnani Yoga, it is a path of knowledge, is more for monks, whether Bhakti is more for householders. Is that true? It is not so, Jesper, because it's not like because a person is more, we can say, on his own, or monks, that actually they have to follow the path of knowledge, and somebody who is at home have to be only Bhakti. This is what I share actually in the SSRF center. We have many seekers and they are doing full-time spiritual practice. You have some seekers who write articles about SSRF. So that is more at the path of knowledge. Some of them are more also doing different seva, but they are more having more devotion. But ultimately, we also want to, anyone should try to develop some level of devotion, because it is also easier to develop devotions than knowledge. As we have shared, the path of knowledge is very difficult and somebody needs to have a pure intellect. But just it's a misconcept that only this path is for those who are in this part and this part is for those who are at home. Ultimately, everyone is different and everyone may not know actually which path is good for me. In reality, actually, we have some seekers also who are at home, but are karma yogs or different path. I also heard that the mantra Om is for monk. That is also a misconcept, Jesper, because we have an article on the website that it depends. Om actually, for the person to repeat, should be above a spiritual level of 50%. And it is not like it is restricted. Actually, spiritual practice or some knowledge about spirituality, as you have shared, like home or this path of knowledge, is actually not restricted to a particular type. It is actually for those who have that capacity, they can do. There is a reason why you say the female should not use home. It is because of female below 50% spiritual level due to could have some internal bleeding due to the heat generated by the vibration of home. So that's why we recommend for a female to be, if below 50%, not to repeat home, because it can create obstacle in a cyclic like men's, or she may have physical problem. But just to understand, there is some science behind it, but from that science that is not known, it becomes misconcept. I hope it is clear to you, Jesper. If you have question about what I share, you can write also. There is another question from Will Brezi. What spiritual practice will help to stay protected from World War III? And how will chanting help me when World War III will start? So actually, that's why we recommend to work on overcoming defect of personality, because ultimately what is destabilizing us? It is our mind. Our mind react to situations. So when we see situations that is not as per our expectations, we become emotional, or we have fear, or we have worry. So that's why the percentage defect removal is directly addressing the mind, especially the different defect like that. And this techniques really helps this introspection as well as autosuggestions, helps to overcome those defects in a quite rapid way. And in a way, you say, not chanting will help us to a small extent in a way, unless you practice spirituality for a longer time and then you are achieving a stability, then chanting will protect us. But to remain stable in World War III, to make fast progress, to achieve stability, is to work on overcoming defect within us, such as emotion, fear, worry. So you can always join our satsang. It is a group of meetings that we held every week in English and different languages as per different time zone. And in this type of meeting online, seekers share their experience, their obstacles, and we also help seeker to work on this aspect. In this aspect, that says the seeker start introspecting, and we help the seeker to understand a little bit more and teach them the tools to work. Because ultimately, in this process also, you only have to work because it is your mind. We can't understand your mind, but we can help you to teach you the tool to work on it. So we can paste also in the chat the satsang. So if any one of you would like to join, you can join to our satsang. They are free of charge, and it is also the platform of SSRF that I share. One of the second platform is to help and guide the seeker in their spiritual journey. There's another question from Gramplex. Out of all the population, the path of Vipassana, art of living, Sudarshan Kriya and Isha Yoga, Mahama Kriya, doing a lot of seva, chanting. See, this is not a path, popular path. They are in a way different organization. Vipassana, art of living, Isha Yoga, they are organizations. And a path and an organization is different. So a path, like as I share, the path of meditation, bhakti yoga, that is a path. And whether it is Vipassana, art of living, it is an organization, and they in a way work on some path. And you said chanting as per SSRF, and all these paths also guidelines that contradict each other. Example, the art of living say not to meditate for too long, wherever Vipassana demand long meditation. So does SSRF say to chant for a long period? My personal inclination is to meditate, chant for a longer time. What is the right way for me? That is a good question, complex. So it's true, because see, what we have shared is one of the basic principle is there are many paths to God as there are people and temperament. And for what works for one may not work for another. And see, ultimately, in some path, they may follow the path of meditations. So they will just say meditate. But as we have seen, to meditate and to grow spiritually, it may take many lives. So again, it will depend also at which speed we want to grow. Because in some paths, they will teach yoga. They will teach yoga asanas, yoga posture, breathing technique, meditation. It will just be in relation to the body. So of course, as they will say, if they do that path only, then they will say you should meditate only all the time. But the speed of progress will be less because it is in relation to the body. As regard to chanting, let's say, chanting is more mental. So this is more subtle. So at that time, the speed of growth will be faster. But it is like that if we use only one path or one aspect, then we will grow only one aspect. But if we try to work on different aspects, such as overcoming defect within oneself, because it is the mind, the main obstacle in main spiritual progress, it is our mind and our ego. As we show, as if we practice spirituality even under guidance of a guru, and it's just pranayam technique, it will take, I think we have shared, it will take up to 20 births, 5 to 20 births. That is a lot. So it depends also at which path or speed we want to grow. So it is not like they are contradicting each other. It's because some will follow only the path of yoga or meditation. So they will say, just meditate. Here in SSRF we will say chant, but work also on the aspect of PDR, overcoming ego, because then progress will be faster. But it is easier to chant, it is easier to meditate. I just have to close my eyes. So it is easier in a way, but accepting our ego, accepting that we have defect, introspecting and trying to overcome them is much more difficult. But at the same time, the speed of progress is much faster. From A1, you say why the path of knowledge is faster. Yes, in regards to other paths, such as if we compare, we were comparing the path of knowledge as compared to yoga asanas, I think yoga posture, or we can say silence. Because here silence, it takes very long time, or yoga asanas is just sitting in some different positions. So it is more in relation to the body. But as a path of knowledge, the path of knowledge is more subtle now. It is with intellect. So intellect is much more subtlest than the body, than the gross body. So from that angle, it is faster, but at the same time also, it requires much higher level. So not everybody will be able to do. In the path of devotion, if somebody has devotion, then the person can grow very fast if they are able to develop spiritual emotion. Here we compare knowledge with silence, with Kundalini, as well with the path of yoga posture. But if we compare knowledge with the path of devotions, then the path of devotion can be much faster if the person develops spiritual emotion. There is another question from Jesper Elegard. How do we know when it is time for us to adopt the path given by a guru? That is also a good question, Jesper. There is one thing also, is when we are ready, the guru appear in our lives. We can keep on searching for a guru, but if we are not ready, it will just happen. So one things we can do, and how we will know also whether we are ready or whether the guru come in our lives. So sometimes we may not be able to understand. One thing is, if we practice spirituality sincerely as per the basic principle, we make progress. And when we make progress, at one point of life, the guru come into one life. So ultimately, working on the different aspect, overcoming defect of personality, ego, trying to develop spiritual emotion. So when we work on those different basic steps, we are born to make progress. And then it automatically happens that the guru come in somebody's life. There is another question from Only One Beck. Will one remember from one life to another? It usually not. We have mentioned also in our previous live stream about previous births. We most of the time cannot remember our previous births, but sometimes our inclination towards spiritual practice or a particular path may be from a path from a previous birth. That can be. So sometimes it can give us an understanding if we like meditation. If we like meditation or we feel inclined to do meditation, it could be that in previous births we have done meditation. But also to understand one aspect, it doesn't mean that if in previous births I have done meditation, that means that in this birth I should do meditation. It's like going to school. We need to go always to the next stage and next level in spirituality. We should not remain always in the same stage. Because how it was 100 years, 1000 years ago, path of meditation was maybe conducive to us. But in today's time, due to the different difficulties, as we share now, to be able to make progress in the path of meditation, somebody should remain in a meditative state all the time. So if somebody, unless the person is able to remain in sit-down position, closed eyes, in meditative state, but if the person has to work, do duties, until unless they have reached a higher level, they will not be able to remain in a meditative state. So what I'm trying to say here on Liebeck is, we may not be able to understand what inclination we have now may be a sign, but ultimately to understand that in spirituality, we should try to go to the next stage and next stage. And you have another question, how soon will someone know if practice is working? That is also a good question. See, when we practice, we should get spiritual experience. We should be able to experience different stage in spirituality. So we should feel sometimes that we get experience that I'm having less reaction from others, or I'm able to experience unity with others. I'm able to experience deeper calmness from inside. So we experience different type of experience that shows that something is happening. But if we don't get any experience at all, we feel no change within ourselves. That means that either we do something wrong, or the path may not be correct for us. And you say another question, I have many expectations, mostly around career. How can I let go of that and let the divine get me to the right place? I don't understand that. See, only back there are two things. When we want to practice spirituality, so what happens? We want spirituality and we want success in life also. So when we are at sometimes 50% spiritual level or 40-50, we want half of the world success and half of spirituality. But ultimately we can't have both. So, but if we practice spirituality and we make progress, slowly we feel that desire for success will become less. So we feel, because I'm able to get much more satisfaction by doing spiritual practice. So slowly, see, and if you have desire for God, you have desire to practice spirituality, but you have also desire for achievement, then you can see how to overcome your expectations and practice more spirituality. Ultimately in spirituality, we have to give more time. If we give 1 hour per day or 1 hour per week, then if I want to make progress, I should be able to give much more, 2 hours per day or 5 to 10 hours per week. Then I will be able to make progress. And ultimately it happens like a scale, no? The moment I'm able to feel more connection to God, that desire for recognition or the desire for success will automatically become less. There's another question from Vasha, but actually just to go back to you, only one back. What is important is good. You have that desire inside that you want to do something more about spirituality. It's just to put things more into practice. That is what is important. In spirituality, it is just not theory. We have to put it into practice and give more time to spiritual practice. There is another question from Vashali Bat. Are there any online workshop to help us with growing spiritually? Yes, Vashali, we in SSRF we have those live stream that we conduct weekly, and we have every 2-3 weeks or 1 month online workshop also. We used to have physical workshop, but because of COVID, now we have online workshop. It is through donations, so you can give whatever you like, and we share different topics in regards to this. But as I shared before, what helped us the most is to join our online satsang, that is meeting online. It is free of charge and it is weekly, and you have advanced seeker who conduct the satsang, but actually we help the seekers to grow spiritually and how to put actually the different step into practice. So Vaishali, you can join. We will share, I think we have shared before, but if we can share again the link of our satsang. There's another question from Nathaniel Colher. How does one overcome ego? Is praying the rosary, the Catholic rosary, spiritually beneficial? See, Nathaniel, overcoming ego, it's a practice to work on it. It is to study the different thoughts in regards to ego and work on them, acknowledging them, able to sometimes change our actions or change our thought process through perspective, or especially this autosuggestion technique. But that is not easy because ego is more subtle and the defects within us are more gross, like say anger, jealousy, inferiority, are more, we can say, gross in natures. So ultimately it's easier to overcome ego. It is best to start to overcome defect, because they are also together. Ego and defect are also connected. Defect are also part of ego. So in a way, when we work on overcoming defect, it is easier at practical level, and at the same time the ego become less. There is a reduction to a small extent, because to work on accepting that I have anger, that I have emotionalism, that I have insecurity, our ego get hurt, how pride get hurt, because most of the time we feel I'm good, I'm best, I don't need to do anything, I'm not emotional. That is ego only. And then when we work on that, automatically that reduce our ego. And after that, when we are more clear with these steps, then we can start working more deeper to understand our passing thoughts, our feelings, because pride will be like a feeling. And then we need to work on it concretely as a action level, as share on perspective level, and especially autosuggestion. And it takes time to overcome ego, takes time. But it can be overcome, because when we overcome ego, we are able to experience the world differently. And ego can be harmful, not only in spirituality. In spiritual ego is a main block, but especially it can be harmful in our daily life, in our work, and especially relationship. Ego, it can be quite hurtful for ourselves. Just to go back, and then you had another question about the rosary. I just go back to your questions. Is praying the rosary beneficial? So there is one aspect, Nathaniel, is good that if you are doing the rosary, but is many words. There are many words, and there is one principle in spirituality that we have to go from many words to one word. And there is this principle also that name, form, and energy coexist. So when we repeat just the name of God, at that time we imbibe the divine principle associated. And in the rosary, there are many words. And in the chant, like Hail Mary, if you are Catholic and just repeating Hail Mary, at that time, just by repeating it, it will be more beneficial than the rosary. You can try by experience, Nathaniel. You can do the rosary for, let's say, 15 minutes or so, or half an hour. See how you feel. And after, what you can do, you can just close your eyes and repeat in mind Hail Mary slowly, like that, for same duration, and compare and see if you feel any difference. There is another question from Rajiv. How do I find out what is my spiritual level? So Rajiv, we had I think 2 weeks ago, we had a live stream on what is my spiritual level. So we explain what can be the different ways to understand at an intellectual level. So if you can, we'll paste also it is a YouTube link, and that you can always have a look and go back to that live stream. And we have an article also about it, Rajiv. Another question from Karin Gondalovic. What is the difference between defect of character and ego? So, Karin, the difference is defect of character can be anger, emotionality. So, at the same time, they are part of ego in one way. But ego is in a way, how to say, in general, the definition is that I am different from God, I am different from other. It's more like I am. So feeling that I am better, I am superior than others. That is more at ego level. And anger, jealousy, or we can say emotionalism, it's more defect at the level of the mind, of character, but at the same time, both are also part of ego. If you can read our article, Karin, we have nice article about ego as well, about this process of overcoming defect of personality. There's another question from Jesper Elegard. Thank you for your answers. You say that the Mahesh Yogi used to say that Om create lot of detachment and therefore is more for monks. Can the female chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya if she's below 50%? See, again, in Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, if they follow a specific path, they will say, and for actually Om Namo, see, there is a difference. It's just saying Om, Om, Om. And here is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, so that is actually a name of a principle, that is Krishna principle. So at that time, it will not have any effect on her. Even a person that below 50% or a female also can repeat that name because there is no danger as compared to Om alone. There's another question from Atmaram Akash. Tell us more about Guru Krupa Yoga. So we have an article also on the website Atmaram. And as I shared before also, it is actually a combination of the different paths, the best, and all of them, if you look, are actually practical. So chanting is practical, overcoming defect of personality is practical. So all the steps that are on Guru Krupa Yoga, or what we call Guru's Grace, all the 8 steps are practical. So like service to God, what we call Seva, or also attending satsangs. So all of them actually we need to put, it's not like just study, contemplating, it is actually just understanding the concept and putting it into practice. There is another question from Cramplex. How to find out which path is more conducive for a person? And should one change the path when progressing? So what I said, see, how to find out which path is more conducive for a person. Ultimately, for oneself, it is sometimes not always easy or possible to really understand if the path we have chosen is correct. Ultimately, it should be a guru or a spiritual master who can actually tell which path will be better, because he will know which previous birth you had. He will know what are your gunas, sattva, raja, and tama. He will also understand the 5 cosmic elements, that what you are comprised of, your temperament. So there are so many factors now to understand which path is best for me, as per our destiny, how much progress we can make in this birth. So depending on that, ultimately to choose ourselves, that's why it is always good to ask guidance. And as I shared earlier, if we practice spirituality as per the basic principle, we make progress. And ultimately, when we make progress, we are bound to meet a spiritual master and guru, and then they will tell us which path to follow. And also another question that you ask, that is a good question: should one change the path when one is progressing? See, when one is progressing, actually that means it's a good thing, no? Ultimately, when we are progressing, we should, it means that that is good for me. So it is not like we should change the path, but just to understand again whether we choose the path for ourselves or somebody. If a spiritual master told us, then it's okay. But if we choose ourselves one path, we may progress initially, but doesn't mean that I may need to go to the next level, to the next stage. It's like we go to school now, we go to first grade, third grade, 10th grade, we keep on changing, so we keep making progress. But more important is to ask whether the path I'm doing is correct or not. And only a true guru will be able to tell whether the path we follow is correct or not. There is another question from Yogamaya Dasi. My mom is a very busy person and she does her duty looking after elderly person as service to God. Will her spiritual level grow from doing this? Will she will be able to enter heaven from doing it? I feel my mom has a high spiritual level. So Yogamaya Dasi, as we share, no, helping others or helping the poor or the elderly person is actually not part of spiritual practice. If it is done out just of work, then it is just work. If the person may have a good way of thinking, that is still not, how to say, going to help the person to grow spiritually. Because ultimately, to service to others, or it is to actually do service to, we can say, sat, that means about spiritual knowledge or spiritual truth. So that is actually service to God. So just helping the poor or helping others may not help the person to grow spiritually. And depending again whether the person is doing good deeds, only 1% of person on earth enter heaven, because it requires a good level above 50%. So if the person doesn't practice spirituality but behave nicely in the worldly life or helping others, it may not be enough for the person to reach that level. Ultimately, to grow to a certain level, to enter heaven just as 50%, the person should practice spirituality. There is another question from Brenda Morel. I need help with this dream. God is telling me that He has given the world 5 gifts. Where do I stand? I don't really understand. So Brenda, usually we don't listen to dreams unless they repeat 3 times in a row. So if one dream you dream it 3 times exactly the same, then to look into it. But if it was just one dream, it's better to dismiss it, not to pay attention, because in dreams there are 2 aspects. One, it can be from our mind, or sometimes it can be also negative energy can during sleep influence us or misguide us. So just, if you had that dream 3 times in a row, you can write to SSRF, we can always see. But if it was not 3 times in a row and see exactly the same, then not to pay attention. From Atul Bali, if we say from many to one, Om should be more effective than Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. See, again, here Atul Bali, there is one aspect from many to one, and is also as per time. There is principle, different principle in spirituality, is from many to one, from gross to subtle, and as per the time. So chanting is also one aspect, is as per time. So in today's time, Om Namo Bhagavate, or the principle of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is more required to protect from negative vibration and to be able to make spiritual progress. So it's in reality, yes, from words point of view, Om is just one word. But there are also, we have to take in consideration this other principle as per the time. And the time factor is one of the most important aspects in spirituality. I hope that is answer your question, Atul. There's another question from Priya Joshi. What difference does it make when we chant different name of God, like Om Namah Shivaya or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya? If it is the same God principle, then what does the different chant do? And Priya Joshi just has shared, no, every name is associated with a different principle and they have different function. So there are three principles in the universe, and every name of God is associated with a different principle. So there are what we call creations, sustenance, and dissolution. So in regards to, and they are all combined of the three. Huh? So let's say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and Om Namah Shivaya also have those three principles. In regards to Om Namah Shivaya, it has more destroyer aspect. So that's why, depending on the time factor also, the different principles that we need. And that will depend on two factors. Everyone is different. So we are also deficient, no, in different principles. So let's say if I'm more deficient in sustenance, I will have to chant that chant more. Or if I'm deficient in that other principle, and I will have to chant that chant. Plus, as per the time factor. If the time factor is now, then we need to chant that chant more. Because this is a specific time now, we need that principle more. So there are two aspects. It is principle as per individual and principle as per the time factor. So yes, every chant has a different purpose. From Tom Rock, another question. If you listen to a chant while helping others, does this help to grow? See, ultimately here, Tom Rock, it depends, no? Ultimately, it's good that instead when you help, you do something, you chant in mind. So when we chant in mind, it helps our mind to remain more calm. It reduces the number of thoughts. It protects us also from negative energy or from negative vibrations. When we help others, in a way, it depends. If, let's say, when we chant and we focus on ourselves, or we try to do some service to God, then we will grow much faster. So again, it depends on the speed. No? So I will chant, but I will help others. It will help me 3-4%. Or if I chant and do service to God, then I will grow much faster. So again, see, as we show in the table before, no? In some past, we may take one life, we may take 20 years, we may take 5 births, 20 births. It depends on the speed. So like that, I'm chanting, but I'm doing this. Oh, so it's sufficient. Just to understand that initially for a start is good, but how to go to the next level of my spiritual practice. There's another question from Nima Tamadoni. Does spirituality help with removing bad habits like porno? Yes, it helps, Nima. We had actually a topic, how to overcome intrusive sexual thoughts. And because when we practice spirituality, what happens? We are able to increase the positivity within us. And we also work on this process of overcoming defect of person or addictions. And then we have this process like chanting God's name, healing remedy helps to overcome the effect of negativity. And if we work on overcoming bad habits, then working on this autosuggestion technique. So when we help, it helps us to overcome not only this aspect of bad habit like porn, but different type of addictions or different type of mental illnesses also. We have different case study on our website where there is many seekers who overcome different type of addictions and problem by practicing spirituality. There is another question from Jesper Elegard. I am afraid that if only I want God, that I will stop being interested in my job, girlfriend, friend, and simple joy of life such as playing soccer, walking in nature, taking, etc. Can you talk a bit more of that? There is one saying, I want butter and I want the price of the and the money of the butter. That means we want to keep everything. It's not possible in spirituality. I want God and I want worldly life. It's also not possible. At one point we have to realize that walking, girlfriend, talking, walking in nature, how much happiness I get. So mind and intellect, we will get moment of happiness and then it will have an end. And then there is a cycle of happiness and unhappiness. But in spirituality, then what happens? We go beyond it. Beyond happiness and unhappiness is called bliss, spiritual emotion. So when we practice spirit, initially it's okay. You are interested in spirituality. We are also interested in different aspects because all those worldly aspects give you some level of happiness. But if you practice spirituality and grow spiritually, then you will start experiencing some glimpse of spiritual emotion or bliss. And you will realize that this level of happiness comes or is devoid of any stimulus. It comes from within. And this happiness is 1,000 times more superior than the single happiness that you may get by soccer, by talking, by walking in forest. And then what happens? You start getting bored of it. Then you forget. This is what happened to many seekers, what they experience. Initially they used to get pleasure from mundane activity. Then they start experiencing a different type of happiness. Then they start getting bored. They were not getting happiness from that. Then they stop doing it or you start reducing it and slowly increasing more spiritual practice. So it's just a matter of time. Continue practice spirituality and then you will start getting experience and automatically you will realize that whatever happiness you get in the worldly interactions is futile or it is in a way bound to stop at one point. It will not everlasting. And behind, when this stop, usually the unhappiness is behind. There is another question from puzzle 9. Path of knowledge takes less time compared with others. Is that scientifically proved? Is that so? If once we decide to start the path of the knowledge, what is the progress can you suggest? See, ultimately, when it looks to, we have body, mind and intellect. So the body is a gross body. Mind and intellect are more subtle. And in spirituality, we have to go from gross to subtle. So practices spirituality only of the gross body. Yoga posture, pranayam, it is just going to take care of the body only. But purifying the mind is much more important. Purifying mind, purifying intellect is much more important. So that's why practice, just as purifying mind or intellect, is superior than practice for the gross body. Just to go back to your second question, if we decide to path of knowledge, what is the step process? See, we share now the path of knowledge is somebody who is able to understand the scripture and put them into practice. So in a way, it is not an easy, and somebody's spiritual level needs to be higher. That's why we recommend initially to go with chanting, because it is easier to put into practice. And then after, if you are able to make progress, and you can see. But ultimately, important is just the danger of the knowledge. The person feel I'm ready for that path. And they just read scriptures. but they are not able to put into practice, then there is a danger to get entangled in too much knowledge or in too much different point. Because ultimately, what we share before in the path of knowledge is whatever we have learned, we are able to experience and put into practice. Then it becomes proper as a path of knowledge. Otherwise, it's just reading books only. It has no value. There's another question from Yogamaya Dasi. Can someone be at 20% spiritual level and progress to 100 in one lifetime? It is impossible, Yogamaya Dasi, because at 20%, a person is not interested at all in spirituality. They have no inclination toward God's realization. They are just focused in themselves. There is no place of God in their life. So they will not do even spiritual practice. But what is possible if a person is at around 40% spiritual level and have intense desire for spiritual progress, then they can be blessed by a guru, and then they can reach 100% in one lifetime. So at 40% with intense desire for God, but not at 20. There's another question from Jesper Elegar. Is it okay to have both permanent happiness and relative impermanent happiness? No, that's what we share, no? Ultimately, if you look from happiness from outside, you will always happiness at hand when it stops. If you go for a walk or interaction with someone, when it stops, that happiness will stop. It will last for some minutes, hours, and it will end. So whatever is, we seek happiness from external factor, it will always come to an end. But when it comes from within, and it is devoid of any stimulus, then the happiness can be everlasting. From Brenda, another question from Brenda. How do you know if you are growing spiritually? I think, Brenda, I don't know if it is the same question that we are repeat, but I shared already before is, if to understand whether we are growing spiritually, ultimately we have spiritual experiences. We are able to understand some inner change also, how we behave, how we act, which sees that our thought process is changing. So we see that our action, our thoughts become better. And we get different type of spiritual experience. This is one way to understand that we are making spiritual progress. From Anita, you said actually a comment that chanting for you is easier than meditation. It is good, Anita, and it's true that actually meditation, until unless somebody is practicing meditation for many, many years, then they will be able to meditate in a good way. They will be able to achieve a higher level of meditations. And chanting is easier because it can be done anywhere, anytime. Okay, I think, dear Sika, is very nice. We went a little bit over time, but it was good because we were able to take almost all your questions. So, dear Seeker, I hope you learned something in topic today. And ultimately, the aim is, it is good that you have yearning, that you want to know what is your path, that you want to practice spirituality. But again, remember, putting into practice is very important. And when we practice spirituality, it is bound to happen that a guru or a spiritual master can enter in our lives. So, dear Seeker, just will end for today's topic. I just wanted to share that on Sunday we have an exceptional live stream. It will be the first time that we will have this live stream where we will show you about who is behind SSRF. We will show you the different saints, seekers. We also meet seekers who actually write articles, who take care of the website, because there are actually many, many seekers behind SSRF or the website who does different seva. There are more than hundreds of different seekers from different countries, and we will share also to you in a way the mission of SSRF, the different things that we do, that you may not know in the background, and what has a result also, and how we work, how we function, and all that, how to get your support also, so that we can continue spreading spirituality. So that is an exceptional event that will be on Sunday. It will be broadcast on live stream on Facebook and YouTube. We'll paste the link, and you can share to others if you feel it may be helpful. And dear seekers, we have also, today is Wednesday, so Thursday, Saturday, Sunday also we have, no, Sunday we'll not have, but Thursday and Saturday we'll have our collective chanting meditations, because now the Sunday collective meditation has been replaced with this exceptional live stream event. So dear seeker, wishing you a good day, good week. Don't hesitate to ask questions on our live chat also, because, and if you want to join always our satsang, don't hesitate, you are always welcome. We have seekers who are there, they do it as a spiritual practice to help you in your spiritual progress and spiritual journey. Namaskar to all of you.